So here with Tom Musca, the great Tom Musca. If you don't know his name, you know his work. And I'll name a few. Stand and Deliver. Oh, Tom's giving us the VIP there. Say something, Tom, because I think the camera goes to whoever's speaking. So do that again.
Right. All right, here's my resume done in film posters, so to speak. You can see it, Chateau Vato there, Stand and Deliver, Tortilla Soup, Money for Nothing. It's a film called Race, Little Nikita, Make Love Great Again. What's that one? I can't read. Oh yeah, well, it was written as Flight of Fancy. It went out there as Facing Fear for some reason. Once in a while they change the title. They don't even ask you. Oh, there's another one over there. Oh no, over here. Gotta Kick It Up. If you were a Latina girl who was 15 years old, you might have really liked that film a few years ago. It was the #1 DVD in Disney's, I don't know, whatever. But that was like when I was a young man. Now I'm a film professor, but I'm still in the ring. Am I not making movies? Must make movies.
You're still in the ring, baby. So Tom and I first got to know each other. I was a student of his. He's a professor at the University of Miami. And then we went on to make a film he directed, Chateau Vato, which currently on HBO.
Which means, what does Chateau Vato mean?
It means the dude in the chateau.
That's all it means, is the dude who lives in the chateau, man.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good.
Which is currently streaming on HBO and HBO Max. Check it out. And then obviously, well, not obviously, for those of you who don't know the background, but Tom was very instrumental in Amaraica. He's primary producer of the film and very instrumental in shaping the film's narrative. We'll talk about a little bit about that today. So Tom, before we get into all that, I just want to recall, so we'd made a movie, Chateau Vato, the summer before.
Right.
I was working on several different scripts.
In one of them in my class, and when you told me you were about to shoot this other script, I went, what?
Yes.
What about that other? We worked for months on the script. What are you doing to me? And then you showed me the script, and we sat and we had a lunch in Coconut Grove.
What's it called? Strata?
Yeah, La Strata. And I said to you, I have things to say. You're going to listen to them, but you're not going to hear them too well at this juncture, because I've done this enough. You need to make some mistakes, in a sense, until you really understand why it's a mistake. It's not a mistake. And it's, in the word mistake is actually not the correct word. You need to try things. And I was cautioning you about some of the idea. You were very ambitious with your subplots. And I said, a lot of these subplots aren't going to hold. And I said that at the script level. Then you went out and shot and did an incredible job collecting footage, but your assembly edit, I think, proved me correct that a lot of your subplots didn't hold. We aren't, I used to work with one guy and he's going, Musca, I'm not watching that movie. And even though it sounds irritating for you as a writer, try someone, I'm not watching that movie. It's true. I am making a different narrative, and I'm emotionally involved with this other narrative. And when you switch and go, you digress to another subplot that I'm not interested in those characters, I'm not invested in their lives, then I go, why are you showing me this? Yeah, I mean, you can TV, obviously, if you're the feature film has to have a very strong narrative with momentum, whereas the TV series can digress into subplots endlessly, whereas a 90-minute, 100-minute film can't do that. And you were doing that. Now, it can be done occasionally, like Crash did that, and I thought that was one of your models. But in this case, you had so much more than you needed. Your assembly edit was close to 3 hours. Was I correct?
I think so. Yeah.
So I remember sitting in the editing room, watching with you assembly edit. I remember telling you something that a producer once told me after the first film I directed. He saw it, and he goes, there's a film in there somewhere. And I never forgot that lesson, which is, if you go too wide, you want to go deep, not wide, generally speaking, emotionally. So you went a little wider than you needed to, which was keeping you from going deep.
Yeah.
And then start sculpting the story through the main characters more, I thought, at that juncture.
Yeah, I remember, a couple of things, and I just want to be vulnerable. One was, yes, I did have this script. I was very kind of hush hush about it all. And in a way, because I was insecure to have it exposed, because I knew I just had to go freaking make the movie. And I knew that I couldn't get involved in like this year-long rewriting process.
Right. You can rewrite endlessly. Yes, you can.
So, which
you needed to pull the trigger for a lot of reasons, and you did.
Yes. But that was the beginning of really the master class you gave me, which really happened in the editing room. I had so many aha moments on what story really is, even though I'd learned it and had it told to me, and you've taught me 1,000 times what story is. It was like in the editing room, it became aha.
Yeah.
With your guidance. The other thing was, I remember watching that assembly edit with you, and I was pretty insecure about it, but looking at your face and your reactions, then I was like, oh shit, this movie is a total flop.
No, I knew that there was the movie. No, I know you had the movie. Because I saw moments that were just brilliant here, there, and everywhere. They just didn't coalesce yet. You weren't platforming them properly because you had so much other material that was drawing us away from it. But I thought the real turning point, and correct me if I'm wrong, was not only sitting in that room, you, me, and Shane Kinsler, right, and talking about it and what the real film you needed to make was when we showed it to my class. Remember, we went. We were in the room and we projected the entire film. I think it was an undergraduate class. I don't even remember, or I can't remember, grad or undergrad. And this was after we had not fine cut it, but had worked the film enough that it was working now. The film, you had a film now, it was working. But then I turned to you and I said, remember, there's 2 scenes missing to keep this from being a great film. And you said, yeah. And I said, da, 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 right? So go ahead, take over. You can tell that story.
Well, I know I remember one because I know we shot it. You might have to refresh.
The one where I said you need the scene where he finally asks her to marry him and she says no.
Right. Yes.
And then you need the scene where they go to the guy and start talking about how they can get their papers. I believe was the other scene we talked about.
Yeah, I think. I think, yeah, the big takeaway I had from those 2 scenes was, number one, it needs to be Juana's idea that he go back to the girl rather than his idea, because originally it was his idea.
Right.
And that to me, that was the biggest pivot in the film.
Right.
That kind of changed.
It was a twist. Yeah. And you need some background also on their attempts to do it right, because it created sympathy for us when we see how frustrated they were getting. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I knew the film could be as good as it was when I saw that the ending, when they come out of the house, those initial cuts, I said, shit, you have it. It's really jarring. It's jarring. And of course, I don't want to talk about the kids in the cages, but I knew, my God, how did you, pulling that off is no easy trick. And I'm sure people will talk about that endlessly because it jumps off the screen, but it's just another piece of the puzzle now. And it's all getting the pieces in proportion. It's proportionality and trying to understand how people see films so you can give them something. It's almost like you tease them with something, they anticipate something, you give them what they anticipate, and you twist it. It's there's those kind of instinctual narrative twist and storytelling craft that you now have. You've learned, it's just, you can feel it. You can feel what you need to do. Because, what film does is, like I tell my classes, it's not a very good conduit of information. Yes, you're in the zeitgeist. You're talking about, the kids in the cages, like I said, which was front page news for many months during the last administration. But now, how do you do that emotionally so it affects the people we're invested in? And you did that. You pulled that off. The endings, the open ending is just brilliant. I don't know. I love the film. What can I say? Very proud to be and not a big but a small part of it. Do what I can, and but your directing, Timmy, really is excellent. Your directing was so good that you could shoot a lot more than you needed and then pick and choose some stuff, and not every low budget film can do that. But that's really a tip. I was talking to someone about you, and I said, it's so rare to have a student that has a business acumen and a creative acumen that are almost equal, because that's what you need, especially in the low budget arena where you have to make so many decisions based on financial necessity and lack of resources, which of course sometimes propel you to a greater creative output.
Yeah.
So that's why I said I'm never making another film without you producing it, and I was true to my word this summer. We made a short film, right?
That's right.
So,
And
I don't want to make a film without you producing. I don't want to do that.
and hopefully we got many more in the works.
Yeah.
But for me to reflect, I think it's important, especially for any filmmakers out there that are either just getting a start or going after it. To be a filmmaker, you got to bring a lot of edge to your projects. You got to, you have everything you need at the moment, but it's still not enough. And I think you're vulnerable when you're showing all those cuts. But honestly, and I'm saying this as a compliment to you, Tom, but also as kind of a lesson forward to filmmakers, is like, I honestly know that I didn't have the wherewithal to shape the story, even though the components were there. I didn't have enough savvy and gravitas in the storytelling arena to shape the story in the way that you help shape it. And so I think it's really important for people to understand having a seasoned voice, an experienced voice on your team can make a huge difference. And I'm talking about the difference between your film sitting on your shelf or getting on HBO, to which also Tom gets all the credit for. I mean, the film wouldn't be on HBO or any platform without Tom. So thank you for all that you gave. And you said you were a small part of the film. I think honestly, you were the biggest part of the film, because without the shaping of the narrative, as you so gracefully helped with, it wouldn't be the film it is. So thank you 110%.
You're my student. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I get paid to do as a professor. So yeah, it was a pleasure. And again, you had the raw material.
So not to belabor all this, Tom, but any, I know you've been part of a lot of films, and here we're
yeah, I think to address what you just said, I think being a professor at a university for over a decade, the single biggest problem with young filmmakers is the one you just alluded to, which was showing your film. Not, yes, to experience people if you can, or that's not as important as showing your film and seeing, don't sit in the first row, sit in the last row, watch people watch your film, have a questionnaire ready to go. Do you think it's too long, too short? Do you think when he said this, did you understand that? The using your film and taking some punches along the way during the initial editing, which is what you're doing, it's going to be too long. I had a film once that I had that ended up winning a number of awards at 20. It came in at 23 minutes. It went out at 14 and a half and won awards. And one of the characters was so despicable. I just hated this guy. And we, sliced and diced enough that people liked him at the end of the film or found him interesting. Let's just say they didn't like him. They found him interesting. So you can really control the narrative, control performance, and by emphasis. And that's your job. In other words, remember I told my editors and my directors, like one of the greatest things I ever did was when I first made a film was like, after you make your assembly edit, which is basically editing to the script you wrote, you walk over to the garbage can and say, goodbye, script. Now let's edit the film we shot. And that kind of like mental transition is very important to have. Let's make the film we have on film now. Let's not worry about what we did or didn't do. Let's just react to it. And that's why, like I've said to you, I think I've made 10 features. 8 of them have changed title from script to screen, which must tell you something, as yours did. It must tell you something, how the film itself takes on a life of its own.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say, kind of in wrapping this up, what would you say is unique about this film, or is worth a watch for someone?
The ability to take a giant subject matter, which you did, something's ripped from the headlines, so to speak, and carve it down to a slice of life, a small slice of life, which allows us to see the enormity of the themes you're dealing with and dramatize the enormity is really an incredible achievement. It's exactly what film can do. It's not about conveying the information of what's going on in our culture at that point, but dramatizing the human emotions of the people involved with that. And that's what films can do better than anything.
Wow. Well, so Amaraica on HBO. Amaraica. Everyone says it different,
That's all right. Just, I never forget when Spielberg put out a film many years ago, shows you my age, called Poltergeist. Everyone's like, what the hell is Poltergeist? What is Poltergeist? Well, you find out what it means, and it's kind of interesting. Yeah. Like Chateau Vato. I mean, who's Chateau Vato?
Yeah, check out Chateau Vato, folk, on HBO. And
produced by Tim Sparks. Don't make a film without him producing it. And that's I got a tattoo that says, don't make a film without Tim producing.
It's always my pleasure. And of course, check out Amaraica on HBO Max, any HBO platform, beginning September 3rd. And
yeah, baby, the Tiffany of networks, it made it. It's there. I'll watch it more than once, and I've seen it a few times.
You've seen it more. The only person who's seen it more is myself.
Thank God I'm losing my memory, because every time I see it, it feels new.
All right, Tom, thanks so much for your time today, and many blessings.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.